Manifesting Mindset by Barry Goss. Manifest Life. About Barry Goss. Ever since he hit his first deliberate, mind-controlled home run at 12 years old, Barry's interest in conscious creation and the principles behind manifestation, how sustained consecutive thought and feeling creates your reality, has taken center stage in his life. Now, at 36 and living in Virginia Beach, Barry has come to terms with his life's mission: to connect with energetic, outside-the-box thinking, prosperity-minded, deliberate attractors who have the knack to teach the so-called unexplained and make it explainable. But it doesn't just stop at reading about, personally learning from, and talking to others who get more out of life by employing the unseen, rarely discovered, laws of the universe. In order to share what he knows, Barry has partnered with a leading internet marketing strategist to create the world's largest, benefit-rich, online portal dedicated to topics related to manifestation. When away from the phone and computer, you can find Barry biking throughout Virginia Beach, walking friends' dogs, taking spontaneous road trips and spending time with the principles he's written about below to manifest a move and new life. In San Diego, California. Reader feedback and comment line 214-231-2911, Ext4585. Congratulations, you now own the reprint and redistribution right to this ebook, The Manifesting Mindset Strategies for Deliberate Attraction and Conscious Living. It's yours free. This is a $87 value. By owning the reprint rights, you can reprint, resell or redistribute this ebook for any price you'd like, and you keep 100% of the profits. Or, you can use the ebook as a free bonus or premium and give it away. It's your choice. The only restriction is that you cannot modify the ebook in any way. That's it. Inside this ebook you'll find incredible wisdom distilled from numerous people who understand the principles of inside-out creation, metaphysical authors, life coaches, energy healers and spiritual mentors who have a thing or two to share about tapping into the greater, unseen and, sometimes, undiscovered, laws of the universe. Use this wisdom and profit from it to your unlimited wealth and abundance. Introduction. A man and his wife, in Florida, embark on a 2-year dream, while still living in the present and going about their everyday life to obtain a brand new home that they want built to their exact specifications. Yes. Not just any home, their dream home with everything they could imagine in it, a true thing of beauty. In being asked about the process of this dream unfolding and how they made it come true without struggle or unexpected delays, they respond by saying, "Our process, it's better than having 3 wishes. It's even better than freeing a genie and having lots of wishes granted." A lady in Illinois spends several long years trying to let go of a tumultuous marriage. She goes soul-searching on an intense, but passionate, path towards learning about, and accepting, herself. In less than 5 years, she orchestrates her ideal lifestyle by creating a business from the ground up and turning into a $4 million per year business. But, not just any business, one that is run, not so much by her, and letting it take over her life, but by 40 self-starting, fun-loving, success-minded employees who all get along and endeavor to serve the customer with heart, soul and character. When asked about what she attributes the creation of this, some would say, ideal work environment and dream business, she responds with, "You probably wouldn't believe it if I told you." Most don't because they're afraid of their own unlimited power, or, like me 4 years ago, they've forgotten they have it in the first place. But what I'm about to tell you just may shake you out of your bones if you're one of them. A man, 8 years ago, travels from New Jersey to California to get a fresh start on life, to explore, dream and discover. While he's driving through Colorado, he stops at a scenic spot along the mountainous highway, gets out of his car, walks down a trail, finds a secluded rock overlooking an eye-catching valley and feels compelled to just imagine. One forced relaxing breath after the other, he imagines, smiles, imagines, smiles, eyes closed, then opened, closed, then opened. He leaves an hour later knowing he'll be back and living a specific life here. Several years later, a series of seemingly coincidental events, at least, to everybody but him, bring him, his new business, and his new wife, back to the exact same city where he took in the scenery, right down to the view from his home office. Everything is exactly as he imagined it. He tells me, as strange as this may seem, for years I really didn't think too much about how I get back here or how I'd arranged my life to have everything I'd envisioned on that rock several years ago, 'cause I really didn't care about that. I just knew the end result would happen. The how really wasn't on the front burner for me. I expected this actually. 3 different snippets of a story, a greater story about a real person's life, but all one theme. Can you guess what it is? We all personally know people who have achieved extraordinary things in their life, and we all know people who just seem to have that extra edge, that smoothness, that knack for making their desires come true without a lot of forced control or unnecessary struggle. You know that person who is referred to as Mr. Lucky or Mrs. Everything she touches turns to gold. Maybe you're one of those people, maybe not. Either way, haven't you always wondered why some people glide through life but why most don't? Or why some people always appear confident, at ease, and fulfilled but why most don't? Or why some people stand out as charismatic achievers but why most don't? Well, fortunately for you, if you haven't, I have. Since my teenage years I've always been fascinated by the people around me who, well, just plain do things and go about life differently. Call them contrarians, rebels, enigmatics, or revolutionaries, whatever the label. Once you start watching, reading about or, better yet, conversing with those people in life who march to a different drummer, but still are engaging, personable, and fairly cool. Think Richard Branson. You'll come to one overriding conclusion, and hence the commonality between the 3 people briefly profiled above. They all have a deep-seated knowingness, not just an instilled belief, that nothing happens to them. Instead, everything happens through them. In their psyche, they see themselves as far more powerful than the outside world could ever image itself to be. They are not reacting to the scenes that are out there. They are instead their own reality-making director who is controlling the action, the people, the events, the scenery, and the circumstances of the movie scene. Yes, the entire storyline of their life is constantly being reworked, from the inside out, to meet their needs as they learn, grow and develop from the experiences they've chosen to put themselves in. What's your self-directed storyline? On his first military campaign, George Washington made a terrible mistake. The American colonies had not yet rebuilt. That was 20 years down the road. Washington was working for Britain, which was in a Cold War with France. The 2 countries were tussling with each other for territory all over the world, including the area near Virginia. One day Washington and his troops spotted a party of French camping in their territory, and attacked them, killing 10 men and capturing the rest. He shot first and asked questions later. He found out it was a diplomatic party, and one of the men he killed was an important French ambassador. Washington had made a big mistake. The 2 major military powers of that time ended their Cold War and entered a hot war. Imagine, for the moment, that you were Washington, and you made the mistake. What would you tell yourself about it? How would the mistake fit into the overall pattern of your life? In other words, what kind of story do you live in? Where do you think you come from and where do you think you're going? You live by a story. Have you ever thought of it that way? Each of us has a story, and we are the main character in that story. If I interviewed you for a couple of weeks, I could probably piece together a coherent story that you live by even if you've never really thought about it yourself. It's your life story and it is the meaning of your life. For example, one story Washington could have told himself was, I am destined for failure. His father died young, his mother was a nag. Compared to his contemporaries, he was poor. Killing the French ambassador could have been a final straw. He might have concluded that he wasn't cut out for military work and given up, climbed inside a bottle and we might never have heard of him. That's one story. That's one context within which he could have lived his life. And do you see that the story leads to certain feelings and certain actions consistent with the story? Here's another possibility. He could have thought he was destined to make his mark in the world, and that his mistake was the most important lesson he was ever to learn. Divine Providence, he could have told himself, is preparing me for a great task. I must learn all I can from this mistake, for it may affect the future of the world. Do you think he would feel differently about the circumstances of his life with this story? Of course he would. Same circumstances, different story, but the heroic story would make him learn important military lessons from his mistake, and it would help him persist and endure hardships that would collapse a weaker person. The story would give him strength. Judging by the letters he wrote home, the story he lived by was a lot more like this second one than the first one. And because he lived by that more inspiring story, he persisted and he learned and he did make a difference. Man of La Mancha, a musical made in 1972, is based on the story Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. It's an entertaining story, but it's also profound. Don Quixote sees the world as a quest, as an adventure, and he sees a poor kitchen maid as a lady of unsurpassed beauty and chastity. He dreams the impossible dream. He fights the unbeatable foe. He looks at life as a challenge to do good in the face of evil and make the world a better place. He wants to dedicate his victories to the kitchen maid, his lady. She is bitter about life, full of anger. Why do you do these things? She asks him. What things? She bursts out in frustration. It's ridiculous. The things you do, he answers simply. I come in a world of iron to make a world of gold. The world's a dung heap, she says, and we are maggots that crawl on it. Two different stories, same objective reality, yet one lives in a life of nobility and beauty and adventure, and the other lives in filth and misery and hatred. What kind of story do you live? Is it heroic, or is it weak? Do you have a sense of destiny, or do you have a sense of emptiness? What do you think is your destiny? The destiny of Earth? The destiny of the human race? The story you tell yourself, the myth within which you live your life, strongly affects your feelings and the ultimate outcome of your life, and it can change. You can change it deliberately, from puppet to puppet master. Did you know the question mark comma is the most necessary punctuation in the English language? Whether written or verbal, without an indication you're asking a question, you'll never get an answer. Yes, it's been said that a powerful question, one that is the cause for a thought-provoking, authentic answer, is the equivalent to a wish granted. And, while asking questions to others, and diligently pondering their answers, is a powerful form of learning and personal growth. There's an even more effective way to use questions in your quest to easily create and mold the storyline of your life. As a matter of fact, this second, rarely used form of questioning is, in my opinion, the only way you can go from knowing about to knowing. It's the only true magic blue pill, and you only thought you could get that through the Matrix. Sheesh, that'll alleviate your pain of trying to think, analyze and wish your way to your dream life, and eventually help you to be a more powerful and deliberate creator instead. Barry, tell me, come on, what's this undiscovered form of questioning, you say? Well, I'm not going to intentionally tease you by hiding it from you for too long, but, let me first say, oftentimes, we get so pinned down by the ego and the illusion of being separated from everyone and everything else, including our own spiritual higher self, that we close up our mental shop thinking, what's the point? Everybody else, I'm sure, is as lonely and confused as me. What can they offer in the way of answers, when it seems like they've got their own issues to work out? But, if you haven't taken notice by now, when you let time pass too long without asking others a question or two about life's most curious and puzzling situations, the universe always sends somebody knocking at your door, like an unsolicited visit by a door-to-door salesman. Sometimes what you think you don't want or need is in fact what you've wanted, secretly or needed, hopefully, all along. You see, perception is everything, not the magic blue pill I talked about above and am going to give you access to below. But nonetheless, if your perception isn't given a makeover or reformulated to serve you and expand your awareness, it can be the only, yes, the only, obstacle between you and the manifestation of your desires. The world that you perceive is perceived differently by the next guy or gal. We are all seeing an illusion, an interpretation of energy activity that we are the creators of. To put it another way, on Earth you are a spiritual being that has human experiences, not the other way around. By the way, these experiences are determined by your thoughts, which are determined by your perceptions, and these experiences are experienced, back again, through perception. It is a continuous cycle. Here's an example of how the universe, my higher self or God, if that helps your interpretation, came knocking on my door, via Richard Eckhart, to help me awaken to greater possibilities of who I am and what I'm capable of. One of my first entrepreneurial endeavors was at the age of 24 when, right out of the U.S. Navy, I was being trained to be a commodity futures broker by a retired prudential trader who owned his own brokerage firm for pleasure at the time, meaning, he didn't want to fully retire but he still enjoyed feeling the action of the markets and talking to select clients for a few hours a day. Richard Eckhart, unbeknownst to him, became the first person to say something so profound, so head-scratching, that I will always remember him for being the one who shook me out of the illusion that I am, metaphorically, a puppet just moving throughout my days by however life wants to manipulate my strings, being at the effect of external causes for which I have no control. As I was sitting at my desk in silence, looking at the prices of pork bellies, coffee, and silver fluctuate across my screen, the question came out of nowhere. Remember, talking to people about personal potential and life's most fascinating and meaningful questions wasn't something I initiated at the time. Barry, you're a real ambitious, very talented, idea-driven guy. I know I'm going to read about you in the paper someday as somebody who has achieved all the material success he's ever dreamt of, but, let me ask you something. Right now, at this moment, if you knew you had $20 million in the bank, what would you do with your life? Would you still be sitting here with me looking at the trading screens? If you had the choice, what would you do with your life? I was stunned, bewildered, amazed and completely changed all for what seemed like several minutes. I think that's how long it took to answer him back too. For the first time in my life, I felt I had the unconditional control to consciously affect my circumstances, to be the puppet master versus the person dangling by the strings of my environment, upbringing, victim of God's will, current financial worth, etc. The point to this personal story is this: perception is a learned system, just like I perceived, via religious preconditioning and family generational norms as a teenager, that I should be content by living a certain lifestyle since the bigger and better one awaits me up there. You learned your own way of perception as you grew up too. Whatever you accepted as true from your parents, friends, teachers, and so on, is what builds your framework of perception. If you've never attempted to expand this framework on your own or opened yourself up to learning what other people are trying to tell you, even if you do think unsolicited questions out of nowhere are nobody else's business, you may be going through life asleep, not attempting to notice life's many details, perceiving little, or you can go through life fully awake, alive to the possibilities for observing all that there is to observe. How? Again, perception is a learned system of beliefs, conscious and unconscious. You learn it, and you can just as easily unlearn it. You unlearn it by replacing it with a new system. And you get a new system by employing the magic blue pill I'm about to share with you. But, before I just straight out lay it on the counter for you to see, and hopefully take, by the way, it's not a prescription. You only have to figuratively take it once. Let me set the stage for its unveiling with a quick story. A son and his father were walking in the mountains. Suddenly, his son falls, hurts himself and screams, "Ara! Why did that stump trip me?" To his surprise, he hears the voice repeating, somewhere in the mountain, "Ara, why did that stump trip me?" Curious, he yells, "Who are you and why did you put that in my way?" He receives the answer, "Who are you and why did you put that in my way?" Angered at the response, he screams, "Coward!" He receives the answer, Coyote looks to his father and asks, "What's going on?" The father smiles and says, "My son, pay attention." And then he screams to the mountain, "I admire you." The voice answers, "I admire you." Again the man screams, "You are a champion with unlimited power." The voice answers, "You are a champion with unlimited power." The boy is surprised, but does not understand. Then the father explains, "People call this echo, but really this is life. It gives you back everything you say or do. Our life is simply a reflection of our thinking. Why ask why, whether consciously or unconsciously? The process of thinking is just the art of asking and answering questions. And, if our life is now proven, science is catching up now with what great healers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders have been telling us for years, a reflection of our focused thoughts, which are the by-product of the questions we ask and the answers we get. Then it stands to reason that the quality of your life is greatly determined by the quality of questions you ask, not just to others, but to yourself. Start to get inquisitive with yourself and curious about life's most unspoken questions, and start hearing some amazing paradigm-shifting style answers. So, my version of the magic blue pill isn't nothing more than understanding this dramatically described truth. Self-directed questions are to personal mastery and self-awareness as breath is to life. If you fail to ask them, you will die. If you ask them incorrectly, your death won't be immediate, but it's inevitable. If you ask them correctly, the answer is deliberate attraction. What do I mean by correctly? Instead of asking yourself, "How will I find a meaningful relationship?" or "Why do I always get into the same financial issue at the end of the month?" replace those limiting questions with questions that will more likely to create answers of depth and dimension. In the relationship department, for example, start asking, "What can I do to start accepting, appreciating and approving of myself? What qualities and personality traits do I most admire, and how would they best complement mine? What does the one soulmate, ideal match, etc. love most about me? How does this imagined ideal mate fit into my perfect life?" In the financial department, for example, start asking, "What's the most fun-filled way I can add value to somebody, some group, some industry, and some niche organization? Can I solve their biggest challenges by offering something I'm already fascinated by and therefore good at? What obstacles or limiting behaviors about money have I overcome? How does my wealth make me feel? What do people do who don't live paycheck to paycheck?" Here's a quick tip. When you ask yourself powerful questions, answer yourself in the first person. I am, or I do. This conditions your subconscious to interpret you as if you are already living your perfect life. So, for the last two questions, shown above, your answers might be accordingly. I am in the process of being full of wealth and abundance and feel stable, secure, and at peace. A lot of them own home-based businesses, and I do what's necessary now to achieve time freedom in my life. Okay. So back to the art of questioning and how the two different forms of questioning, in all practical purposes, create a mindset for you to employ any of all of the 12 inner world strategies below. When you set out to ask questions to others, like I did when I compiled over 120 different types of questions when conversing with the teachers in my book, Conversations with the World's Top Manifestation Mentors, you expect to get back answers, right? It doesn't mean you're expecting the answer, the one magic bullet answer that will change your life instantly. However, nonetheless, you do know, have no doubt, you'll get an answer, some answer. Well, the same goes for the questions you ask yourself. If you're at the point in your spiritual growth where you can accept the idea, or have already done so, that you're an extension of the universe, source, or your higher self, or God, or infinite intelligence, if that helps, then it won't be hard for you to understand that there's a quality answer waiting for any question in the world that you could possibly ask yourself. Jason Oman, in his book Money on Demand, states, in fact, whatever question you do ask, consciously or unconsciously, you will get an answer for it. Instead of asking yourself how to get a job, where your mind will answer you with the solution of trading time labor for money, instead ask yourself, How can I get $1,000 by the 30th of this month? What can I create or invest to get this result? If you continuously ask yourself this question over and over again, it allows your mind to work and think and go places it has never gone before. Use the power of your mind to get the result that you want. Remember, it's all just a way of thinking. So, the real secret is to use the power of your mind to get the result you want. It's easy when your mind has been trained to think and see things it never noticed before. The only difference between you and somebody who is rich is that they see the money and the opportunities. They know how to think to allow their minds to come up with what is necessary in order for them to turn that idea or opportunity into money. They see it, they ask themselves the right questions, and they turn it into money in their pocket. His co-author, Mike Littman, follows up with points as equally revealing to the power of self-directed questioning. Every result you are currently getting in your life is nothing more than an answer to a question that your mind asked. Everything, every goal, you must take control of how your brain is working. Bill Gates asked himself the question, how can I provide the intelligence that runs all computer systems? Master the art of asking great questions and act upon them. The questions are the link of how everything works. A famous cartoonist said that nobody really becomes a fool until he stops asking questions. Create victories from this process. The key to tapping into powerful questions is to truly realize that the smartest person in the world is the person inside you. From perception to vision, expanding our paradigms, as explained above, starting on page 6. The overall perspective through which we see and interpret the world is a learned system that is built over time, through passed down beliefs, orthodox teachings, and often unquestioning ideas that we still hold true in our mind. Or said another way, the world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, wishes and emotions in our minds. But, what if you could expand your perspective to simply see the world differently, and what if doing so would put you in a more complete mindset to start experiencing life differently? Wouldn't you want to at least try out this idea of expanding your perception so you can start seeing the world, and your place in it, from a more visionary level? Before I hand it over to Dr. Joe Dispenza to reinforce what I just said, it is important to also know that there's a difference between perception and vision. Perception sees from an incomplete level. It is based on interpretation and beliefs, not on facts. Vision, on the other hand, sees things clearly in reality. It knows to consistently operate a tad above the ego, and it isn't hypnotized by the sensory world, which gives perception the illusion of a material reality out there. And perception, because it is a function of the ego, believes in separation, need, attack, vulnerability, fear, the possibility of failure, and so on. Vision, because it is largely a function of self-examined conscious thought, believes in connectedness, and limited power, and abundance. You break through the mold of your perceptions to a more visionary, deliberate manifesting mindset by asking, and genuinely wanting to know the answers to life's most curious and heart-stirring questions. As Dr. Dispenza, featured teacher in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, put it, the average person considers their life boring or uninspiring because they've made little or no attempt to gain knowledge and information that will inspire them. They're so hypnotized by their environment, through the media, through television, through unattainable ideals of physical appearance, beauty and valor that everybody struggles to become but cannot, that most people surrender and live their lives in mediocrity. And they may live those lives, and their souls, their desires, may never really rise to the surface. So, they may want to be something else, but if they do rise to the surface and people ask themselves, is there something more, or why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Where am I going? What happens when I die? When they start to ask those questions, they start to flirt and interact with the perception that they may be having a nervous breakdown, and in reality, their old concept of how they viewed their life and the world starts to fall apart. And, to me, this falling apart is a good thing. That's certainly what he's trying to get across. It's the equivalent of now viewing the world from an eagle's nest versus an ant farm. When Einstein said, "You cannot solve a problem from the same level in which it was created," he was referring to paradigms or being woken up from a limited state of perception to a more expanded view of our world, our inner and outer. Paradigm shifts are common when we are very young. We eventually find out that we were not brought into the world by a stork and left under a gooseberry bush, that there is no Father Christmas, that our favorite heroes, celebrities and authorities have feet of clay. There are also paradigm shifts to be experienced when pass through the phases of life, from childhood into adolescence, on through adulthood, middle age, old age and finally physical death. If accepted in the right spirit, the paradigm shifts that we assent to can be extremely beneficial in helping us get to a more visionary mindset that will in turn better help us master physicality, the ability to manifest your thoughts, desires, and dreams into the physical world. When we get older, we become entrenched in our worldviews and are reluctant to give them up. We resist necessary paradigm shifts, and this is why we age mentally and physically and why we wind up with strategies for a living that are really outgrown and do not work anymore. The right paradigm shifts are certainly good for you, but, like all the best medicines, many don't taste very nice. Before I could ever put myself in a position, be open to learn about, thoroughly understand, and implement the 12 inner world principles below, I would first have to bear squeezing my nose while taking in an unfamiliar view of everyday existence. Following are the 5 main preconceived ideas and preconditioned perceptions, illusions of the mind, if you will, that I personally needed to strip away before I could see and use the more hands-on strategies listed below these illusions. Warning: these new paradigms may well be somewhat controversial, or even, dare I say it, shocking to your system of thought. But I did not invent these visionary views of life, but, only through intense gut-level questioning and critical thinking, come to understand that it is the knowledge and brief understanding of these that will either cause you to throw up or wave on the unpalatable taste of more good medicine. You'll either be moved to consume something sweet, easy, mundane and valueless, like a newspaper, magazine, or cheap novel, or you'll continue to take the good medicine knowing that your mind viruses will eventually cure themselves from the inside out. Life's top 5 illusions. Illusion number 1. God is a personality, an oversized white male with a flowing beard who sits up there watching our every move. My new paradigm: like the electrical source from an outlet, God is formless, infinite, non-linear, as well as unperceivable. God is that first force that expressed itself as in through you, as in through me, as in through all things everywhere. If you've soaked up and bought into traditional religious theology over the years and or haven't put on your critical thinking cap while exploring ideas outside the black book, this may be a little hard to swallow. And, since the idea that God is our creative source and that we are an individuated, interconnected extension of that universal source, like the sun is to a ray of light, since this paradigm, this new view, has took me a while to get a handle on as well, I'll tread lightly by just giving you an excerpt from Len Chetkin's book, 100 Thoughts That Led to Happiness. Note: this new paradigm that we are not mere fragments of the Father God or organized religion, like crumbs in a cake, but that each of us really does contain the total powerful essence to instead be the cake, that is, everything is God, ergo, we are God, has raised an outcry for years, from when Charles Fillmore said the same thing over 100 years ago to the recent echoed paradigm in the Conversations with God series, by Neale Donald Walsch. This is one of those unspoken truths that more and more folks over the last half-century have felt from deep within but which maybe they dared not yet accept or believe. Start of excerpt from Len Chetkin. Instead of looking at God as a deity in charge of everything going on in the physical and having it stop there, instead of viewing God as a standoffish power who threatens to wield power at the slightest misstep, instead of thinking of God as a separate entity who resides somewhere outside of us, reigning over the universe with an iron fist and a loving heart, think of God as an integral part of our everyday living, the deity of which we are part and parcel. the Mother Father Spirit whose totality is the sum total of all souls everywhere, who can be called on at any given moment to aid any individual cause, and whose love is infinite and is never withheld, no matter what the circumstances, because it is our birthright, being divine, to call upon the infinite gatherings of love and once feeling love's existence, be immersed in it. It's like not seeing the forest for the trees. We are the trees, we are the forest, we are divine, we are God. End excerpt. God is neither external nor internal. God is everything, everywhere. God is the formless first and all-pervading source is holographic, with each aspect containing a complete imprint of the whole. God is all that is. While this view may not serve you, again, it is one of the necessary paradigm shifts that I had to make, like the dynamite that blasts a hole in the side of a mountain for access to further exploring. This visionary personal truth has given me the ability to see even deeper truths. I have no idea what God is. Yes, I have an experience that God is. There is something very real about this presence called God, although I have no idea how to define God. To see God as a person or a thing, I can't seem to do it. It's kind of like asking a human being to explain what God is. It's similar to asking a fish to explain the water in which the fish swims. Fred Alan Wolf, Ph.D. Illusion number 2. If it's in the Bible it must be true. My new paradigm. The ultimate truths are to be found within. Yet the study of a variety of sources of information helps you to reawaken and remember your inner truths. As a young teenager, one day in Sunday school, out of naive curiosity, I asked my Sunday school teacher, "Is the Bible our sole, God-given, instruction book for living?" As she usually had a snappy, ever-confident answer, she said, "Of course it is. It is God's holy word and His rule book for us to live in accordance with His plan for our life. But, if it's God's one and only guide," I continued, "what about other people across the world who read other rule books? Can we all be good people by living our lives out of different rule books?" She mumbled that she would have to consult with the minister about that question. While I still recognize the Bible as a remarkable book, unquestionably the world's all-time bestseller with countless millions of copies in print and one that lays out some insightful truths into helping us live a righteous life, yes, it has some very high levels of consciousness imprinted in it. I also acknowledge that there are a lot of other God-inspired books, texts, just as the Bible is, for people you come across who reference the Bible, and only the Bible, to impose their worldview on you. It's important to keep in mind that the Bible, or the various transcriptions and points of view about what Jesus said or taught, comprises many fallacies. The error comes not from Jesus, but from the varying positionalities of the people, the ego of man, who attempted to transcribe truth onto paper. If one chapter, or the book of the Bible, was 100% correct, another written version by anyone else would not be needed. But many people tried to keep a record of what happened at the turn of that millennium, and unfortunately these stories differ, sometimes greatly. In the case of the Old Testament, it was compiled over thousands of years, and the events of the New Testament were recorded by people at least 400 years after the death of Christ. Stories were passed down from mouth to mouth by believers for hundreds of years before they were actually written down. Anyone who has ever done the whisper something in the ear of circle of guests at a party knows that what was said originally is invariably changed by the time it hits the end of a circle of people. In all cases, the Bible was written directly by the universal source, all that is, or God, if you still prefer, but was inspired by God using the talents and shortcomings of the Bible authors. Everything they wrote was filtered by their perceptions of the world they lived in. Paul acknowledged this when he said our understanding was as though we were looking through a clouded mirror or glass. So, what do these facts all mean? How can it help you increase your manifesting mindset? Well, when you realize that God, the universal whole, did not just stop communicating with us 2,000 years ago nor expect us to or condemn us if we don't view the Bible as our definitive instruction book to life, especially after it's been horribly manipulated, controlled, and mistranslated over the years, you're better equipped to see, from the mountaintop of spiritual truth, just how you're really supposed to live your life, not from fear or judgments but on love for each other as individuated parts, images, of God's source, requiring that we take full and complete responsibility for the choices we make in discovering who we truly are. When you open yourself up to other compilations of spiritual truths, like the Conversations with God series or the Abraham Hicks publications, books and texts that have many less stories of extremely egocentric and ethnocentric depictions of God and His Word, you will see that it's more about individual responsibility rather than blind acceptance of another's authority. But I'm not even asking you to believe what's written in these other books either. I'm not sure I always accept even 90% of what I read in anything, but from everything I know to be true based on my experience and my personal growth, not some prefabricated force-fed belief system, these other books have divine truth within too, as three-part beings, body, mind and spirit. Our bodies are capable of earthly things, our spirits capable of godly things, and our minds are usually the barrier. The way to help your mind become the bridge to connecting body and soul is to ask questions for yourself, seek truth for yourself and from no one else. In other words, be open to other ideas and systems of thought and teaching. Illusion number 3, the universe came first, you came second. We feel everybody around us as figuratively here alone. We see ourselves as separate minds trapped in separate bodies, moving through separate points in time. My new paradigm, we are connected to everything and everyone in more ways than we might be able to ever imagine, unless we wake up and remember that we are the ones who wanted to forget in the first place. For years, we've evolved to believe that we what see, experience and have in our life is what, well, life basically has given and continues to give us, that we are consumers. We are the ones that were created. We are the ones that have no choice. We have to live out our genetic destiny. But, just what if, yes, what if the world as we see it, as a picture of alienation, with each of us caught in an endless, frustrating, hopeless search for completion, has long been nothing more than a fun illusion that we pulled on ourselves before we arrived in physical form? Let me share with you this fun little story, written by Steve Rother from Lightworker.com. Which gives a very description view of the notion that the physical world doesn't actually exist. It is a dream, a self-written script, and we are the ones billions of years ago who fell asleep and dreamed it up. Let us take you on a journey. All of us here are gathered in a meadow at the base of a mountain. We are home and we are all playing together in perfect love. A dear brother approaches and says, "Would anyone here like to play a new game?" "What kind of game?" you ask. "Is it like the ones we play now?" "No," he replies. "It is like nothing we have ever done before. It will be an elaborate game with many props and disguises. We will wear veils so that we can no longer see or remember our true nature. Even the veil will be hidden from view. Then we will start the game and begin to remember. This veil will be so effective that you will forget not only who you are, you will even forget home. Even as we pass each other on our paths, we will look into each other's eyes and not recognize one another. The veil will be so effective that many will look around at the props and disguises and truly believe that is all there is. You will retain all of your powers, yet you will not remember how to use them or that they are even there. The game will be played in phases, and before we start each phase of the game we may place as many reminders in our path as we wish, to help us remember. Be advised to place many reminders, for most of you will rationalize them away easily. We will choose the time and place of our entrances and exits on the game board. We will also set up circumstances and lessons we wish to complete while we are under the veil. A tally will be kept and points will accumulate from one phase to the next. This point system will only be used by you to determine what will be included in your next phase. You will not be able to remember from one phase to the next, yet, once mastered, certain attributes may be carried forward into the next phase. You will always carry your core essence and personality, yet you will not remember that it passes with you through the veil into every phase. Humor will always be a reminder that passes unchecked through the veil. and if we find you getting too serious we will tickle your funny bone as a reminder that this is only a game. There will also be many masters available along the way to help us if we wander too far from the path. Oh yes, I almost forgot an important part of the game. At all times there will be free choice. You have complete choice in all matters. You may even choose not to play the game, or to call in a substitute. You may choose to hide, or you may choose to seek. It is entirely up to you. On the game board there will be polarity. This has to do with the mechanics of the game board itself, and will be a necessary component as it provides the contrast needed. However, polarity will taint your vision. Through eyes tainted with polarity, you perceive things as up or down, light or dark, good or bad, love or fear, and right or wrong. Do not let this fool you. It is only illusion. We will all leave our higher aspects of ourselves in a special place for the duration of the game. Otherwise the game would be much too easy. Your higher self will be available to you at all times. Your challenge will be to learn to access it, and to remember that it exists as part of yourself. You may choose special loved ones to ride on your shoulder to advise you during the game. Again, remembering that they even exist will be a big part of the game itself. The goal of the game will be to see how many can remember who they are, where they are from, and what powers of creation they have. Once you remember, then you may remerge with your higher self and recreate home on the other side of the veil to demonstrate that you have fully remembered. So who wants to play the implications of this should you choose to accept this visionary paradigm or profound? If we have never really separated from God universe the energy of all that is, if we are the dreamer, it is we who can make the dream a happy one, and it is we who can stop dreaming altogether and wake up whenever we want. This is oftentimes associated with raising our consciousness and level of self-awareness, which can be done numerous ways. See the 12 principles starting on page 34, omitting the background information which might make this even more clear for you. One of the best short explanations for getting at least an overview of the concept of oneness and the idea that we, in a paradoxical sort of way, are the ones who actually created its opposite, separation, so we can experience ourselves as the actors living out our own script. One of the best excerpts I've seen is from David Cameron's book Achieving Your Life's Goals Effortlessly. Hinduism taught it in a different way. Buddha does the same in a different way. Tao did the same in a different way. Jesus and Muhammad taught it in a different way. Quantum physics teaches it in a different way. Just about every spiritual teacher, sage, quantum physicist and religion teaches us, it its own way, that we are all one, and by acting in that awareness we move forward fastest, most richly and least painfully. This is nothing new, but often we have refused to listen. Now, in your quest for abundance and joy, you may wish to look at this again. Everything is all one, the same being, individuated in different guises. In other words, everything is a localized point in and of the source, of the all that is, of God. Nothing can possibly exist outside of and separate from the source. The individuation and the illusions of separation are necessary for the creation of physical experience. Once you realize, feel, and act from this position of oneness, you will start seeing that you already are one with all the things you desire, and with all the people and things that will bring wealth to you. You will see that you are the one making the request for your desires, the same one communicating that request, the same one fulfilling that request, and the same one experiencing the manifestation of your request. Hence, you need not worry. The illusion that you are not the same one is there just for your thrill and experience. Whatever way you look at it, spiritually or scientifically using quantum physics, the conclusion is this: separation does not exist. End of story. So, my question to you is this: would you rather continue to believe that the outside world controls you and that you're connected to nobody or anything but yourself, or would it be much more exhilarating to believe in the idea that you dreamed up your own place in the world so you could create your own partially pre-chosen experiences within the world? Personally, I like the latter, knowing that there's this interconnectedness of the universe, that we are all interconnected and that we are connected to the universe at its fundamental level, I think is as good an explanation for spirituality as there is. Dr. Stuart Hameroff. Illusion number 4. Conditions outside events and experiences sometimes just happen to you without your total control. My new paradigm: I never blame chance, fate or luck for my life experiences. My life becomes what I have imagined and believed in. The world is literally my mirror, reflecting back to me the thought energy inside me. Is it possible that we're so conditioned to our daily lives, so conditioned to the way we create our lives, that we buy the idea that we have no control at all? We've been conditioned to believe that the external world is more real than the internal world. This new model of science, quantum physics, says just the opposite. It says what's happening within us will create what's happening outside of us. Dr. Joseph Dispenza, in the groundbreaking quantum fable titled What the Bleep Do We Know?, the one that Dr. Dispenza gives some pretty poignant ideas to consider about life and your role in it. The filmmakers do a pretty remarkable job through part documentary, part narrative drama, and part visual hallucinogen explaining how the worlds of science, psychology, medicine, metaphysics and human development have all converged to support one universal truth: you are the primary cause for everything, yes everything, in your world, and that you can change the effect at any time. Quantum physics, which, in a nutshell, is the physics of probabilities, begins to explain how you are in direct manipulation of your entire physical world, but you may not be aware of this fact. In other words, it may appear to you as if reality is happening to you, because of your limited interpretation through your 5 physical senses, while all along you are happening to reality, regardless of your intentions or awareness of doing so. At the root of every problem, need, or opportunity, there is only consciousness, or thought energy unhindered by ego. From consciousness, being in a state of alert awareness of yourself and your surroundings, all things flow. Consciousness creates and directs everything. The entire spiritual, scientific and medical communities are all now agreeing that we, as a collective consciousness, are at the beginning stages of waking up from just how powerful we are, and have always been, in being able to affect everything we experience in life. It's been said that we have grown in our science and technology, yet now we will grow in our consciousness, and this will be the greatest growth of all, making all the rest of our advances look insignificant by comparison. Quantum physics, because it describes the invisible cause. Normal Newtonian physics describes the visible effects, explains how everything in your world comes to be, and it will be this form of science which will help you clearly see how to harness this invisible force of consciousness to work miracles in your life. It is science finally catching up with spirituality and common sense, and explaining it. As David Cameron writes, think about it, when someone tells you that anything is possible if only you believe, aren't you more likely to believe that when you know how, step by step and scientifically, your belief shifts the universe and produces what you believe in? Quantum physics doesn't tell you what to think, however, as it focuses on the study of the building blocks of the universe, the unseen, as of yet, infinite possibilities. It does give you a clear foundation to start with when truly trying to understand how your thinking and beliefs create what you eventually see. While we have a section inside our blog that gives more research material into this fascinating field, including what string or M theory may eventually prove, here's a few things, in brief discussion, that it tells us. All quantum scientists agree on one thing: no solid object is really solid. Even something so obviously inanimate as a table, for instance, is made up of rapidly flashing energy packets or quanta, billions and billions of packets of energy that flash in and flash out of that space where the table appears. Based off years of study, experiments and congruent research papers, it is now accepted that an electron, energy packet, is not a precise entity, but exists as a potential, or sum, of all probabilities until the act of observing or measuring it freezes it, or pins it down, to a single state. Once we are through looking or measuring, Once we withdraw the attention, the electron becomes a probability again. Everything in the universe, all matter, is made up of these fluctuating, highly mobile, subatomic energy packets. Therefore, all matter acts exactly like a large group of subatomic particles would. A table's being there is a result of us all watching it being there and deciding it to be there. It is not a wholly independent existence. The point? Nothing exists independently of your perception of it. There's a lot more, much more, science to support this notion, that the act of observation is what really makes probability-based matter a definite thing or a concrete object. However, for now, just know that quantum physics is the real world and you draw in from this unseen subatomic world according to your intention, expectation and beliefs about what is and isn't possible for you. A fascinating story that was demonstrated in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know is that of Christopher Columbus visiting the indigenous people of South America. Because clipper ships were totally out of the realm of their reality, these people could not see the ships on the horizon. One day, the tribal shaman realized there were ripples coming toward shore. He knew that something must be causing those ripples. But what? Day after day he strained to see, until one day he finally saw the ships approaching. His people couldn't see them, until he described to them what he saw. Because they trusted him, they could now see the ships with their own eyes. This story illustrated the principle that we can only see in our brain what we are able to see. In fact, we only see what we believe is possible. Perhaps this explains why mystics can see angels and other realities. For them, believing is seeing. Biologically, the brain processes 400 billion bits of information per second, but is only aware of 2,000 bits at any one time, usually information about our environment, body, and time. Just what is the brain perceiving that we are not seeing or integrating? We're living in a world where all we see is the tip of the iceberg, the immense tip of a quantum mechanical iceberg. John Hagelin, Ph.D. Illusion number 5. Like the beads on a necklace, time exists as a string of identical moments and we experience the moments the whole of our life is played at once, start to finish. My new paradigm, now is the only moment that exists. My life only happens right now. I can remember the past and dream the future, but I can only be and exist here now. Now is how. It was a day I'll never forget. At 17, you don't expect to be so moved by anything other than a high-speed car chase, talking about sex, or listening to your favorite rock band live. However, on one cold December day in 1987, I heard these words from my high school basketball coach. To rise above mediocrity you have to consistently act in the present. You won't make it on my team living off of past accomplishments or thinking about who you may someday become. Operate out of your comfort zone. If you come in here, the gym, focusing on hard work and proving yourself every day, if you concentrate your energy on the here and now, I promise you that your future will take care of itself. Coach Steve King. Being motivated then soaking up the meaning of this little pep talk and being in tune with what he means now are almost two completely different points of view. Then I heard, focus Barry, it's about focus. Now I hear, the here and now, the here and now. I wonder, yes I wonder, is there really any other real place? Experience tells us that time is very different from space. We don't all share the same place, but we do all share the same time. We can move around in space in a variety of directions, or stay put, as we choose, but move inexorably through time, and only in one direction. Above all, unlike space, time passes, or does it? The secret about time, according to quantum physics, spiritual studies and our understanding of eternity, is that it's not the linear constant you perceive it to be. For years the scientific community has been trying to convey that not only is time more illusory than you think, it's also a slippery mixture of your past, present and future. Like frames in a movie, the universe is nothing more than a series of separate instants, the illusion we have of them appearing simultaneously, in a sequence that seems to flow forward, is because our so-called thinking mind, not our inner still expanded consciousness or higher awareness, is conditioned for us to see very narrow sections of the space-time continuum at a go. So, we only see one small slice, then the next, and so on. Zen Master Seung San elaborated on this topic in his excellent book The Compass of Zen, referring to how a strip of movie film has separate, but complete, frames that are still, not moving. Our minds and the whole universe are like that. This world is impermanent. Everything is always changing, moving, non-stop. Even 1 second of our lives seems full of so much movement and change in this world that we see. But your mind, right now, is like a lens whose shutter speed is 1 divided by infinite time. We call that moment mind. If you attain that mind, then this whole world's movement stops. From moment to moment you can see this world completely stop. Like the film, you perceive every frame. This moment, which is infinitely still and complete, in the frame, nothing is moving. There is no time, and nothing appears or disappears in that box. But this movie projector, your thinking mind, is always moving, around and around and around. So you experience this world as constantly moving and you constantly experience change, which is impermanence. You lose moment mind by following your conceptual thinking, believing that it is real. Augustine suggested that maybe time is measured in the mind. It is not an event itself that is measured, but instead, the impression that it leaves on the mind. This is what is meant by psychological time to a large extent. Everything we call the past is, literally, nothing but present memories. Likewise, everything we call the future is nothing but present memories inverted, or rearranged, to form a prediction or expectation. In other words, the appearance of time is little more than a trick of memory. You can easily discern this for yourself. Simply figure out what it is you consider the past and the future. You will discover that it is nothing but thoughts, nothing but memories, nothing but expectations, nothing but mental commentary. It's all in your head, so to speak. There's really no such thing as time. There is really only now an eternally present with no beginning and no ending. Everything is completely new, distinct, and original every instant, with no real change or motion at all. The mystic philosopher Heraclitus, explaining this point, said, "A man cannot step in the same river twice, if you think hard enough about it." There's a lot of wisdom contained in that simple statement. Time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by and another takes its place, and this too will be swept away. Marcus Aurelius, 121–180 AD, a Japanese warrior, was captured by his enemies and thrown into prison. That night he was unable to sleep because he feared that the next day he would be interrogated, tortured, and executed. Then the words of his Zen master came to him: "Tomorrow is not real, it is an illusion. The only reality is now." Heeding these words, the warrior became peaceful and fell asleep. Okay, so about now ya just might be asking, can understanding that time is an illusion really serve us in our quest to manifest our desires? Well, that's exactly the question I asked one of the mentors featured in Volume 1 of Conversations with the World's Top Manifestation Mentors. The short version of his response, paraphrased, was, "It is related to manifesting. In fact, there are specific benefits of mastering holographic time. Understanding that everything happens in the here and now and perceiving time is directly linked to your consciousness, not fragmented moments placed beside each other on a one-way line. You become more centered, patient and focused. You can achieve clarity in your desires and what you really want, which helps you to manifest whatever you desire. Because of that clarity, it also helps you to understand your emotional state and create them at will, and, as a corollary to the benefits of understanding the true nature of ever-present moment time, Deepak Chopra, in his book The Book of Secrets, suggests that even though time is essential to functioning in this world, the conditionings of the past must be released, and the anxiety and fantasy projections of the future must not be allowed to control our lives. He says the misuse of time, which is a symptom for misplaced attention, can bring about the following: being anxious about the future, reliving the past, regretting old mistakes, anticipating tomorrow, racing against the clock, resisting change. Once you understand that you can change how you perceive time, then you can control time in your life. Unfortunately, that does not mean that you can get home in rush hour traffic in 10 minutes when it normally takes you an hour, but you can control how you perceive that hour. You see, man created the concept of time to help him control and categorize his world. This was done by dividing up the things he saw in nature, the seasons and the smaller time bits like the phases of the moon and the still smaller bits of the rising and setting of the sun, into smaller and smaller chunks so that he could better arrange his life. Though what has been mostly forgotten is time is an illusion. If you're still with me and like this whole fluid time idea, try this. The next time you're in a boring situation, like say stuck in traffic, relax, take a few deep breaths and tell yourself that 5 minutes are as one, and repeat that several times. This will change your perception of time, so though you will still have to drive those 5 minutes, they will seem like only 1 minute, and I am willing to bet that the commute won't seem nearly as long as usual. There are so many applications of this concept, the only real limit is your imagination. According to David Cameron, with the understanding of that time only exists in the present moment, here's some tips to A. Quit going through life reacting to things based off memories of the past, and B. 2. Quit misusing your imagination about the future. Most people do and see the things that occur most often in their lives in an unconscious and unaware state. Because they have seen or done something once, they turn to relying on their memories of it and labels about it that they built in their minds the first time. Learning and discovery drops to zero. Memories of the past experiences take over. What good does it serve you to live today based on your memory of it yesterday? You miss the gift of the present moment totally. In your business or work, do you take an absolutely fresh look at your workmates and customers each new day, or do you go by how you know them in their past? Everything changes, and using memory keeps you from seeing that change, seeing things as they truly are. Try to forget everything about what you're looking at, and you will discover a whole new world. And you will grow a whole lot faster, grow your wealth and self a whole lot quicker. In reference to the future, he goes on to say, do not spend all day daydreaming about a future time, saying if only, mentally escaping your present and dwelling in an imaginary tomorrow, going on about the whole day in a dreamlike state, being only half aware and conscious of the details going on in your day. These things actually slow you down on your trip to a better tomorrow. Just as it is necessary that you set future goals, it is necessary that you embrace and experience the present and act in it consciously and with awareness. If you wish to progress, remember, the universe can only use the present moment to send you clues, people, events and opportunities to advance. It cannot use the imaginary future in your head. Instead of chasing a better future by throwing your consciousness into the future, bring it back to the present and let the future chase it there. What you don't know that you don't know. So, there you have it. Some key shifts in perception about some key unquestioning beliefs that you may have grew up with. I'm not saying you even have to believe in these new shifts in thinking that I'm encouraging you to look at, cause, quite frankly, dear Watson, you're undoubtedly here on this physical plane to experience, and believe in, your own thoughts, ideas, desires and goals. The 5 ideas above, that suggest looking at the world a tad differently, may pitch an unfamiliar view of everyday existence, and there is no way of knowing whether you can take hold of them without letting them slip through your fingers. But, even if your ideas and beliefs about the illusions of life do seem to sync with mine and you can hold on to what I've said so far and perform what I list below, there is still one serious point you should consider. If they don't serve you in your quest to make this physical experience we call life, pay your price to reach a state of fairly consistent happiness without feeling you have to struggle for it, then keep asking for a new direction. If you need more, or other, uncommon views of the world to create what you want and be happy, then start exploring what you don't know that you don't know. Huh? Well, I'm about to let the originator of that cryptic phrase explain that in a second. But, hang with me for a second on one key point before I get into that. First, your source. Agree that is, there isn't a world out there that impinges on you or is always pulling your strings, therefore, giving you the illusion that you have no choice but to adapt to it or control it as best you can. And, second, if happiness means that you are what you like to be, you do what you like to do, and you have what you like to have, then, if you're not happy, or getting everything you want out of life, that must mean you've accidentally fallen into some kind of mental quicksand trap or are unconsciously limiting yourself by your current view of reality, definition, condition or existence commonly agreed upon. After all, let's face it, you wouldn't intentionally sabotage your happiness, would you? So, if you're figuratively stuck in an area of life, and not getting everything you want out of it, here's how one of my longtime mentors, John Milton Fogg, suggests to expand your reality, or your knowledge and beliefs about what is possible for yourself. An excerpt from John's best-selling book, The Greatest Networker in the World. There is nothing which you now know, and nothing about what you think you don't know, that will help you create the success you desire. The key to your success lies only in what you don't know that you don't know. Do you understand? No, I told him truthfully. I have no idea what you're saying. How can I know what I don't even know that I don't know? You can't, he said. That's the secret. Okay, so I admit, I didn't understand either, but, after reading it several times, I had a good clue, but wanted something more clear, so I got in contact with John and here's what he wrote back. Barry, you know lots, yes, and, you know that there's a lot you do not know. Probably a much greater area of knowledge than all that you know now, but there's a vast, I'll say infinite, realm of knowledge and wisdom that you don't know that you don't know. It is from this infinite, and ever-expanding, universe of knowledge and wisdom that possibilities and breakthroughs can be found. After all, what you know now and know you don't know has gotten you where you are today. If you want to be somewhere else tomorrow, you'll need to explore what you don't know you don't know. Life does not have to be complex at all. It is only complex for those who are spiritually asleep and have totally given up the idea of being capable to understand it. Hey dude, they say, what's the point of exploring those esoteric areas of my life, the new and strange, when I don't even know what the bejesus I'm looking for? Well, exactly, therein lies the reason. You'll know when you find it, but you can only find it by attempting to. In my experience, personal breakthroughs and the accumulation of holistic power over your life only come when you are only willing to take responsibility for 100% joy in your own life now, not later, but now. Most people are prepared to put up with unsuitable jobs, wrong relationships and circumstances, just as long as they can be compensated with a host of indulgences. It is a case of compromising yourself in the present so that some future excess can be indulged. This is the road to false security and being drained of life. It leads, surprisingly, most of the time to the very same type of question above. I don't know what knowledge and wisdom I'm missing, but damn it, I know I'm missing something, continues the ever-looping mind virus. They know because their common way of thinking, doing things, and going through life still keeps them induced in a host of dissatisfactions, unmet aspirations, unfulfilled desires, problems and cravings. I've seen it, and experienced it, time and time again. The person who is willing to step out of their customary going-in-circle indulgences, jump over their preconceived mental boundaries, risk their ego status or self-importance, and suffer the insecurity of taking on a few unusual approaches to growth, they always end up becoming a more awakened person. The following poem was written by a man called Guillaume Apollinaire. For me it evokes the mood of a person who is on the threshold of a new kind of life. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them, and they flew. The knowledge we've needed, since childhood, to grow, learn, and develop as happy, joy-seeking humans has never been in a hidden, secret, mystical place we felt we've had to go to find. You've been watching too many Indiana Jones type movies, or, at least, thinking you've got to take a trip to India to find a wise old yogi, master, guru, priest, etc. Rather, the wisdom and infinite power we need to tap into every now and then, so we are on track in consciously creating our lives, is there where it always has been, inside us. We just have to be more aware of it, instead of afraid of it. 12 Key Manifesting Principles. So, if you're not afraidly cat, wanna employ something different than old hat positive thinking, traditional affirmations, or things that get you temporarily motivated, then here's a few inner world strategies, ideas, and techniques to put inside your own reality creating tool shed. The following manifesting principles and mindset strategies are adopted from the teachings discussed in the book, Conversations with the World's Top Manifestation Mentors, Volume 1. Go, see, or do. Do you really know? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to see and what do you want to do? Do you really know? Magical manifestors know that the more definitive they are in their desire to have something, the more confident they are in knowing that what they want is, well, really what they want, the more likely the other strategies will have an impact or even matter in the first place. In other words, as every running back in the game of football would agree, there's no point in carrying the ball if you don't know where your own goal line is. If you're in constant fickle mode about a desire, the universal laws of creation will never have a chance to do their dance. The more you keep changing your mind, the more the music will stop and the more they'll have to keep starting the dance steps over from step 1, to remedy any insecurity about what you really want. One of the mentors in our Conversations book suggests this: if you knew you only had a short amount of time to live, say 1 week, what would you honestly do with that time? Where would you go? Who would you see? What would you want to experience? If you knew you truly did have the inner power to attract to you anything and everything you'd ever want, don't you think you could decide? If not, heed this truth from the cat in one very famous cartoon. Alice came to a fork in the road. Which road do I take? She asked. Where do you want to go? Responded the Cheshire Cat. I don't know, Alice answered. Then, said the cat, it doesn't matter. Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Trust in and be patient with the buffer of time. If every need, want, desire became fulfilled the instant we thought about it, I suppose patience wouldn't need to be a virtue. We could finally call Ma and Pa up and say, why'd you keep telling me that as a child? The teachings of Abraham put it this way, and you also knew there would not be an immediate manifestation of any thought, so that you would have ample opportunity to mold, evaluate, decide, and enjoy the creative process. We refer to that time between your offerings of a thought and its physical manifestation as the buffer of time. This is that wonderful time of offering thought, noticing how it feels, adjusting the thought to achieve an even better feeling, and then, in an attitude of absolute expectation, enjoying the gentle, steady unfolding of anything and everything that you have concluded is your desire. One of the mentors I interviewed, in an article we wrote, put it this way: be infinitely patient, discover a deeper knowingness inside you that can help you let go of anxiety, disbelief and doubt, decide and believe that your goal is on its way. The universe is always supporting what you want, and if you affirm what you want, it will always help you to achieve it. The more you can surrender to this deeply wise and powerful feeling of trust in letting go, the more the universe can help you. The universe has always provided us with everything we have our whole lives. It's safe to deepen and relish this sacred trust. If you have trouble trusting, watch the mind vigilantly for old patterns of fear and doubt, and then gently refocus on the relaxing positive thought flow. As soon as you are in a space of infinitely trusting the universe, it will immediately manifest your desires. It's about getting in touch with that infinite patience that ignites and engages this manifesting process. The experience of trust is really the greatest and deepest surrender to the universe from the tiny ego trip we're on. My take on this topic, in reference to manifesting, is this: it is crucial to be able to trust that, even if the desired result has not appeared yet, it is on the way. much like trusting that seeds planted in a garden will sprout soon. Feelization baby. Feelization. In her book, Beyond Visualization, Vicky King says, "We're so good at using visualization naturally that we do get our thoughts manifested, but that's not satisfying our hearts. You could have it all, but if it doesn't feel as if it's what you wanted it for, then you keep wanting more and more and it feels like less and less. When you go directly to the feeling you want, you can have it now." In visualization, thoughts equal matter. In feelization, feelings matter. So, what's she really saying, you ask? Simple. The more enthused, excited, and emotionally charged you are about something that is, the better it feels, the faster you'll see it show up in our life. While Vicky's book doesn't focus on this idea or cover it in detail, I found somebody who does. One of the mentors I interviewed in the Conversations book talks about this in ways you'll absolutely appreciate. Her practice, books, workshops, and our interview focuses on the language of feeling in the manifestation process. As she said in our interview, if you did nothing else but ask yourself, how do I want to feel right now, and kept bringing yourself back into feeling good, everything else would fall into place. If you haven't yet ordered the Conversations book, do it now to learn more about the idea of feelization. Shut up. It's too noisy in there. One of the truths you'll begin to notice throughout this list of strategies for getting into the manifesting mindset is that neglecting one can oftentimes hinder the workings of another. For instance, if your mind is constantly awash in all kinds of debris, trivia, worries, to-do lists, how can you focus on setting a clear intention? That's right, you can't. My yoga teachers call it the monkey mind, the mind with radically jumpy, ever-changing, noisy thoughts that keep you from realizing your oneness with your infinite higher self. They oftentimes follow up with the idea that almost any problem can be solved if you reserve enough daily time for quiet contemplation. And they're so correct, considering our supercharged, high-stressed, fast-paced lifestyles. Is it any wonder more of us aren't taking a respite by seeking refuge through purposely shutting down the noise in our head? In one of my conversations, a mentor says, there are many ways written in every religion and creed about how to do this, and one of the best I have found is what I call going into the silence. It doesn't mean you have to sit down and meditate all day or roam away until the cows come home. True silence is the rest of the mind. It is to the spirit what sleep is to the body. Nourishment and refreshment. William Penn, 1644-1718. Beliefs create perception. Your perception creates your reality. Several years back, Joe Girard was once asked how he sells more automobiles than anyone else in the world. His reply: I simply sell the world's best product. That's all. I sell Joe Girard. Joe's objective was to make every customer want to do business with him. He obviously did a good job at it. For 11 consecutive years, he sold more automobiles and trucks than any other retail automotive salesman anywhere. But here's the rub. They were all Chevrolets. Certainly a good make representing a good value, but certainly not a product that couldn't be purchased somewhere else. Bottom line, Joe certainly had a good product line that he believed in. However, his posture and attitude towards himself and his ability to be liked is really what won over each customer. The moral: you will never convince anybody to believe in you until you believe in you. But there's more to the power of belief and manifesting than just a quick motivational story about believing in yourself. What about the beliefs, unconscious or conscious, that you have about things like money, the opposite sex, exercise, or even the contents of this book? A belief is simply a thought that you keep returning to, and since thoughts are energy, beliefs have the greatest influence on making that energy go to work for you or against you. The reality of life is that you get exactly what you order. The universe always brings you back what you ask for. It doesn't have any other choice. But what it brings is what you truly believe, whether it's one that is hidden, half-buried, or one that sits right up in plain view when you ask. For example, if you've held on to the conclusion, from the past, that all men are non-committal, boring, and lazy, but you're trying to use these principles to manifest the guy of your dreams, then what do you think will happen? Most likely, you will produce the experience of not getting the dream guy until you uncover and light a match to that old, limiting belief. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Conversely, when you check your beliefs up front, you can get rid of the ones that don't serve you, for your beliefs drive your thoughts, your actions, and ultimately the content and quality of your life. There are many ways to recognize and clear limiting beliefs, just as there are many ways to juice up the productive beliefs you do know you have and want to keep. In both cases, we discuss this throughout the Conversations book. The outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to reflect their inner beliefs. James Allen. Not all affirmations are created equal. I couldn't help but shake my head as I opened a book I checked out from the library. It was a book about using positive self-talk. I opened it. Something fell out. A white 3 inches x 5 inches flashcard that had the following on it in handwriting. I am healthy, strong, young, powerful, loving, harmonious, successful, and happy. Oh man, I thought. This person surely needs to hear the conversation I had with one of the leading experts on using affirmations correctly. You see, if you only go with the old school way of implanting positive self-talk in your head, you most likely will not get full mileage out of the task. Here's a small snippet of the conversation as mentor, mentioned above, and I had, mentor, see, a traditional affirmation has some guidelines. The guidelines are just to be a little short and sweet, and it needs to be about you or me, and it needs to be in the current tense. So, let's take an example. Here is my example. It is a true story. In the early 1990s I come from a big family, big as in big man. So, in the early 1990s I decided to use affirmations to help me lose weight. So, I learned about affirmations and then I did an affirmation that was called, I have a happy, slender body. So, does that meet the affirmation guidelines? Barry, yes. Mentor, yes. It's current, it's about me, and it's in the current tense. I put it up on my bathroom mirror. I go in front of my bathroom mirror, and I'm very large at this point, probably 100 pounds larger than I am right now. I am looking in the mirror and thinking, and saying, I have a happy slender body. What do you think the words in my head are? Barry, oh man, who are you fooling? Mentor, who are you fooling? Look how big you are. Your dad is big. You come from a big family. You're bigger than you have ever been. You can't even see your feet. I am having all these thoughts, and all those thoughts are generating what kind of vibration? Barry, negative. End of conversation snippet. Well, the bottom line on affirmations is that most of us haven't been trained to use them correctly. Not only is the mentor above the only person to say that, and teach a more effective way to turbocharge these induced auto-suggestions, there's a lot of other renowned teachers saying the same thing. Dr. Robert Anthony, who I haven't yet interviewed, but is another expert on the subject, says, using affirmations on a daily basis is one of the easiest things we can do to change our lives. Most people do not know how to use affirmations properly. Belief, imagery, and emotion are essential elements to effective affirmation statements. Both Dr. Anthony and the mentor I interviewed have neat little corrective methods for ensuring you get the results you need when employing affirmations. Stay with the breath of the dragon. Just like a top-notch athlete could never truly be in the zone without sustained mental energetics, you can't master deliberate attraction without focused attention. But it must be understood to focus, in a state of expectancy, on what you do want. I once saw a flyer advertising a seminar at a local metaphysical organization that said, attention is attraction, focus is flow. In my opinion, that basically means the more you visualize, imagine, and focus on your desires in a clear and relaxed way during the day, the more real they will become. Martial arts masters in China refer to this type of continuous mental focus as breath of the dragon. There's a fine line, and mental touch, between doubt-free anticipation and detail-ridden anxiety. It's important to learn how to let go, not of what you want, but of how, when, or where it will come from. If you let the details take center stage, your focus will be misdirected and actually slow down the length of time for your desire to come. Remember, as pointed out by one of the mentors I interviewed, the reality is, you are attracting things to you all the time, and the more you focus on what you want, not what you don't want, with positive energy, the more your thoughts will produce the desire in your life. Pay attention to your fantasies. If the outside world and the people we have personal relationships with is one gigantic mirror reflecting back to us exactly who we currently are and exactly where our dominant thinking is, then our dreams, daydreams, and fantasies are like the trailers to movies. With proper awareness of them, they foretell what we'll eventually see, manifest, in a much bigger way. Dreams speak to us in an endless variety of ways, foretelling of potential occurrences, offering health insights, illuminating past life relationships, providing needed encouragement and more. For instance, if we're daydreaming about how we are afraid we are going to not make our sales quota, or how we may lose that important business deal, it's time to begin to shift gears and begin imagining ourselves creating what we do want. If we've had a night dream about choking our upstairs neighbor because he listens to the stereo at hard rock concert levels, and because when we request help with the matter he's rude, it's wise to know that we're likely to experience more negativity from that neighbor. Even if we are polite on the surface, dreams can be one very powerful emotional gauge. What occurs in our minds when we are fully asleep is reflective of the emotions and thoughts we had while fully awake. Granted, sometimes they suffer in the translation, but our emotions are certainly at the root. The basic feelings make their way from our consciousness to our unconsciousness. Want a key to unlock your inner wisdom? Try keeping a dream journal. To fully understand our dreams, experts like Carl Jung and Ira Progoff believe a series of dreams must be examined, not just a single night's images. To assist in the interpretative process, the following steps are suggested by Patty Testerman of Journal Genie.com. 1. Date and time your dream. You may find that the dreams you have just before waking have different themes than those right after going to sleep. When you date your dream, don't forget to include the year too. Title your dreams, like The Monkey Attacked the Cow, Airplanes Explode Over the North Pole, or Jack Won't Stop Pulling My Hair. Over a period of time, you'll probably find recurring themes, like dreams with spiders, or plane crashes, or being chased. 3. Briefly note the day's events. If you write down any irritations, worries, angers, or heightened emotions you had during the day, you may be able to see a clear correlation between the day's events and your dreams. 4. Record your dream in as much detail as possible, including the emotions you experienced during the dream, and the emotions you experienced in recording the dream. Feel free to illustrate your dream, either through a drawing or photograph. 5. List the important keywords from your dream. These might be words like love, hero, flying, snakes, puppies, peace, or death. 6. Interpret the dream. Without using devices like a dream dictionary, try to interpret what you feel the dream was about. Was it about being trapped, breaking free, venting strong emotions, taking a journey, or? There is no right or wrong answer, so allow yourself the freedom of speculating on a meaning. 7. Look for recurring themes. Once a month, look back through your dream journal, searching for repeating patterns. If you find one, your inner self is trying its best to give you an important message. Don't forget to look for patterns in your list of important keywords. The potential for growth through dream study is limitless. Whatever method or practices you use to gain a deeper understanding of your dreams, you are certain to discover the value of letting dream guidance be an important part of your manifesting mindset. You see things, and you say why, but I dream things that never were. And I say why not? George Bernard Shaw. Dreams come true. Without that possibility, nature would not incite us to have them. John Updike. Open your glove and receive in the movie Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner's character played catch with a ghostly baseball legend of the past. He didn't know why he was asked, or what it meant, or even how fast and hard the legend would throw it. He just believed in the experience enough to step onto the field, put on his glove, and receive the ball. What do you think would have happened if he asked too many questions, doubted his worthiness to play catch with him, or felt the need to control a specific outcome before he stepped onto the field? Many teachers of the creation and deliberate attraction process teach the art of allowing. To most, because of our ingrained association with the ego, it is one of the hardest, but key principles, in manifesting. To me, it's all about learning to surrender control, because if you're the type of person who has to know every detail, every how, when, where and who, of the outcome before it happens, your doubting energy will constantly be attached and the universe will smell it like a dog smells fear. It's a matter of semantics, but here's a way to better understand this principle by seeing the distinction between allowing and receiving. As told by of the mentors in the Conversations book, allowing means that we control when and how something comes. Sometimes, though, we really don't. In that case, when we apply this particular distinction to what we want out of life, we come to the conclusion that we must receive, rather than allow. Receiving then means that we do not control when and how our desire manifests. Instead, it means that we are letting Spirit take control of the who, when, where, and HW, although we already know the what and the why. For example, if a friend decides he's going to give me a $20 bill just for the heck of it, would I be allowing or receiving? If I were to allow it, it would mean that I was trying to control every aspect of it. The who would be fine with me, the what would have already been decided by my friend, but the when, where, why and how must be in my control, must be my decision. But if I simply receive from this friend, rather than allow, I would not be in control of any of the situation. The who decided the what and the when, as well as the where and the how, and finally the why. The friend would have made the decisions that covered all of that already. My job would then be simply to give him thanks for it, and put the $20 bill in my pocket. So rather than allowing Spirit to do something great in our lives, being in control of certain aspects of the manifestation, why not just receive of Spirit the thing we desire? Why take control of it? I believe we should simply let Spirit decide all the aspects and joyfully receive. It's much easier that way. Let Spirit decide what comes, who it comes through, when it will manifest, where it will start the manifestation process, why it is manifesting, and how it will manifest. Simply receive what it is your desire, rather than allow it. Set your intention, the universe will deliver. This is closely related to a previously written principle, with the heading of go, see, or do. Do you really know? But it's worth restating in a different way. Intention rules the earth. That's what one of the mentors in our Conversations book said a few years back in another interview. He followed with, what you declare you want will begin to move the energies of the world into making it so. This is hard to explain in a brief interview. Basically, all of life is energy. That's it. Just energy. Your intention begins to mold that energy to form the thing you want. My license plate holder on the front of my BMW Z3 days. I am the power of intention. It's a reminder to me to spend more time every day declaring what I want to have, do, or be. Amen to that. I'm always fascinated by all the different tools we can use to help us get where we want to go, and, in my research, I've come to learn there are indeed distinctions between what setting a clear intention can do versus just traditional goal setting or affirmation statements. Number 1. Setting your intention is about understanding what you're doing, and why you're doing it. It's more about spending time inside visualizing and getting very clear about what you want. Goals are the concrete results of your intentions. An intention is not concrete, but energetic. It's the way we send messages to the universe about what we want to create. Number 2. With goals, the future is always the focus. Are you going to reach the goal? Will you be happy when you do? What's next? Setting an intention, at least according to Eastern philosophy, is quite different. Setting a properly constructed intention statement, like, it is my intention to do whatever it takes to feel relaxed and stress-free, puts your attention on the ever-present now in the constantly changing flow of life. You set your intentions based on understanding what matters most to you and make a commitment to align your worldly actions with your inner values. Number 3. Intentions are more personal and a little more focused. They allow you to jack up your commitment level. I hope to, or even I want to, for example, betray a low level of commitment. In the first example, you are giving yourself permission not to achieve the goal, and in the second example, you'll end up being too attached to the how of achieving it. On the contrary, words like "it is my intention to do whatever it takes" to signal a strong intention, and therefore one that is much more likely to be achieved. In the universe, there is an immeasurable, indescribable force which shamans call intent, and absolutely everything that exists in the entire cosmos is attached to intent by a connecting link. Carlos Castaneda. Send out a thank you in advance. Gratitude gets a bad rap as being some sort of feel-good thing, but it's not. Rather, it is a mindset you can easily employ that sends out the message that I already have what I desire. The 19th century British philosopher Herbert Spencer wrote, "Gratitude is the tune of the angels. The greatest of enlightened beings were grateful in advance for the things they chose to create." It's easy to be grateful for what you already have, but when it comes to the things you don't yet see, gratitude tunes the intuitive mind, the internal belief meter, and the open heart to manifest them at turbo speed. I asked questions about the why-tos and how-tos of gratitude in several of my conversations. However, here's an excerpt from the Conversations with God series that really hits home for me. This place of knowing is a place of intense and incredible gratitude. It is thankfulness in advance. And that, perhaps, is the biggest key to creation, to be grateful before, and for, the creation. Such taking for granted is not only condoned, but encouraged. It is the sure sign of mastery. All masters know in advance that the deed has been done. If you purchase our Life Mentorship Pack, you'll have access to an incredible report that gives you step-by-step instructions on how to practice gratitude every day. You cannot exercise much power without gratitude, because it is gratitude that keeps you connected with power. Wallace Wattles break off a piece and give it away. This principle can be beautifully understood through this story submitted by Christian Godefroy. Two boys, in their early teens, were hiking through a wooded area on the way back to their small village when they discovered a cave that a hermit made home. They had traveled very far and still had a long way to go before they returned home. They were hungry and tired and looking for a place to stay for the night. When they saw the hermit, they started to run off. He beckoned to them to stay for a while. He didn't get many visitors and enjoyed company when the opportunity permitted. They started to make an excuse, but he persuaded them to stay, so he invited them to dinner, and asked them of their journey and of the people and things they've encountered. The two boys enjoyed talking to the old man and were glad they had stayed. The food was very good and they were warm. After the old man cleaned up from dinner, they sat around the fire, drank tea and continued to talk. The old man then said, "I have something for you boys," and went off into the cave. He came back out with a very old wooden box. He sat down between the boys on the ground, crossing his legs in front of him. He placed the box in his lap and then looked first at the boy on his right, then turned to look at the boy on his left. They both smiled as he looked at them, and wondered what could be in the box. He lifted the latch and slowly opened the box. To the amazement of both boys, they saw a strange glowing force. It was vaguely ball-shaped, yet had no apparent substance. However, the old man lifted it out of the box and held it in his hand. "Here," he said, "I want both of you to have some of this," and he broke two large pieces off, leaving a very small piece, which he put back into the box. He then gave each piece of the strange mysterious object to the boys. One of the boys said, "You have given us so much that you have little left." The man replied, "It will grow back." He then added, "This is a very magical and powerful thing that I give to you, for if you break off a piece and give it to everyone you meet, it will grow. If you do not give it away, it will shrink and eventually fade away to nothing. The boys looked at each other with an expression of doubt and skepticism in their faces, but they were appreciative and thanked the man. It had already been arranged that they would spend the night and boys went off to bed. The next morning, the smell of breakfast woke the two boys. Knowing they had to leave, the hermit prepared a simple meal that would hold them until they could return home later in the afternoon. He let them refill their water and gave them some jerky in case the breakfast wasn't enough. They thanked him again and were on their way. Once the boys got home, they told their families of the man and the strange gift they had each been given. Both boys made boxes for their gift. The first boy did as the stranger suggested and gave a piece of his to each of this family. The other boy did not. He kept it to himself and refused to give any of it away, even when asked for some. As the years went by, each boy would show this gift to everyone they would meet. All who saw it marveled at it. The first boy continued to give part of his away, and over the years it had grown and grown. Several times, he had made larger and larger boxes to keep it in. He gave it to everyone he met, including business associates, strangers and even the woman who became his wife. Each time, he told the story of the hermit in the cave and passed along the instructions to share this fascinating gift. Eventually, his had grown so much that he could not contain it. It consumed his home, his neighborhood and the entire countryside. In fact, he couldn't travel away from it. It seemed to always be around him. The other did not. He kept his all to himself. He would show it to strangers, and when they asked about it or tried to touch it, he would slam the lid shut on the box and return it to its shelf. He did not realize that each time he held it back without giving a piece of it away, it would get smaller. Eventually, he went to the box and opened it, to find that his gift had disappeared. One day he happened to meet the other who was with him the day they received the gift. He was somewhat resentful when they met. The man who had always given his away, stood tall and had the look of a successful businessman, while he looked old and tired. Still, the successful man asked him how he's been all these years and was genuinely interested in hearing his stories. But the second man bitterly stated, "I regret the day that old fool gave us that horrible thing. It's done nothing but wreck my life. After all these years, someone broke into my room and stole it. But I'm glad to be rid of it. It's caused me nothing but misery I don't understand," said the first man. "Did you not give it away as the hermit suggested?" "I did not, for if I had done that, I wouldn't have any left for myself, but now it's gone anyway, isn't it?" said the first man. "Here, I will give you a piece of mine and you can have another start. You see, this gift we were given such a long time ago was not mysterious at all. What it is friendship, and you have to give it away to get some back in return. The moral: friendship, love, the more you give, the more you get, and that applies to any and everything in life. Want more of something? Give it away. Want more money? Give a slice of what you have away with an attitude of authentic servitude. It's the law of reciprocity in action. You get what you give. Whatever we see in the universe sees us. Whatever attitude, feelings, thoughts and desires we put out, regardless if they are negative or positive, return to us." Continued briefly on next page. It's not magic, but it can be magical. Manifestation is not magic, even though one of my favorite teachers has basically said that you can achieve magnitudes more in a few minutes through state of being and deliberate thought than by years of hard work. It's still not a something for nothing, sit back and turn into a superachiever overnight plan. Sure, this teacher was trying to magnify that point, that working with natural, universal principles and inner world laws is a lot more magical than doing it the old way. However, it's still not voodoo. It's a mindset that you have to evolve into, and you only do that by surprise working at. I truly hope you'll enjoy the journey with me to get the best of the best manifesting resources, tips, conversations, reports, and tools. Be sure to become an Inner Circle Portal member. Copyright Manifest Life LLC, all rights reserved.